Staying alive is about solving problems and those problems that occur with your particular weapon system. Speed reload, mag out, mag in. Good job, Neil. All right, gentlemen, thank you guys for coming out today. You guys have a lot of experience in, I call it the box. And in that box, you guys are extremely comfortable operating inside there because you guys are very, very successful. Well, what my goal today is to do with you guys is to expand that box, that knowledge box. I want you to grow your box a little bit bigger, maybe even to the degree today of actual failure. All right, hold for a second. Finger off the trigger. Present your gun. And that is okay, because we need to know where our actual failure limit is. I'm gonna pull the trigger. And when we can get to that failure limit, then our next goal is to actually go beyond and break through that so we can create that box a little bit bigger so that now that failure actually becomes a success. Good shot, perfect. That's the way to do it. And that's what I want to look at today. I want you to have the knowledge that you guys already have, and I want you to just be open-minded to some new things. And I want you to take that knowledge that works for me, and what I really need you to do is figure out what works best for you, because my body mechanics are different than your body mechanics. So specifically, this isn't a class about do everything identical to me. You need to figure out what tactic and technique works best for you based on the operation or the environment that you're operating in. Skills. You have to be able to actually come out here and run a gun and function it under stress. And then of course you're already out here, which shows me your desire. Your desire is to succeed. So let's go expand our knowledge box. So the first thing that I'll cover real quick is there are a couple different ways in which you may want to think about transitioning. The first way, your weapon is up here. So I'm going to use weapon hand today and reaction hand today. You can take your reaction hand, which I will refer to as your non-firing hand. You can take that reaction hand and dump the gun. As you do so, your weapon hand goes right for your secondary, comes out, and it's up on target. What that allows you to do is, when you do your check drill and you put your secondary weapon system away, I can bring the gun up, check the chamber really quickly, and determine why that primary weapon system stopped working. Was it an empty mag or was it a double feed? So as you're doing your transition, that is what I want you to think about. Why did my primary weapon stop running? And then go into finding the solution, treating the signs and symptoms for whatever you need to, whether it be a double feed or whether it's just a speed reload. Now that is one way that you may choose to do it. The other way is when you're in this position, you roll the gun inboard, still accessing your secondary weapon system with your weapon hand, meet the gun, and punch out from there. Either way is fine. The difference in this position is that once you holster, I then will grab my primary from this position here and have to roll it to look at it. The only slight variant here is that from this position, I can bring it up, look, and immediately go in and treat the symptom. However you decide to do it, ultimately is up to you. Remember, what we're looking at right now is we need to get bullets on target as fast as possible with our secondary weapon system. If we need to run an extended amount of time or stay on our handgun an extended amount of time, then what should we probably do with our primary? Transition! Then move it around, get it locked into position, and start making movement. Other than that, we need to get our secondary up. 90% of the time, if you're 50 yards or in, I know 50 yards is stretching it, you will not be wrong for drawing your secondary weapon system and engaging that target. Now, to some of the shooters that may be here, you might be able to actually and successfully engage targets with your secondary out to 100 yards. If you can do that, then great. It's just going to increase your lethality for doing what you need to do. All right, guys, the next drill that we're about to go into is what we call the check drill. What happens now is we're going to simulate that both Neil and I's primary weapon systems have gone down at the same time. But the game's not over, because whoever we were engaging at that point could still be there. So we're going to transition to our secondary weapon system. When we do so, after we transition, it's also important to work out when do we start getting each other's primary weapon systems back up. All that it basically means is you can use whatever terminology you want. I ask you today to just use the word check, so at least as individuals we're all on the same sheet of music. So Neil's going to help me do the check drill. What weapon system should we actually load first when we have the ability to load either our primary or secondary? Which one's more advantageous to load first?
Secondary.
Why is that, Mark?
Because you'll forget.
Exactly, because you're generally going to forget about that secondary, and it's on you for a reason, and that reason is to save your life. So the first thing that we'll do, at least come out, make sure you're good to go, do a press check. Once you've done that, and you know that there is one in the pipe, at that point, then you can load your primary weapon. Don't forget when you guys are out here today to do a press check. Good to go, Neil?
Yeah.
I'm glad I chose you. All right, stand by. Bust them. Check. Okay. Secondary goes away. You'll bring your primary up, reload it. Ready. Check. Okay. Scanning for additional bad guys. That allows your partner to get his gun up and running. Ready. And that's it. All right, guys, let's run the drill. Don't look down and do that press check, Mark. If you're going to do a press check, get it up, get it in front of you out of habit. Start it down here, then have the potential of creating training scars. All right, gents, you're good to go. Back. Oh, this is nice. Hey, you're both fingering your stuff. You gotta be kidding me. All right, let's do it again. You're both reloading your primary at the same time. No need to look at him. He'll tell you when he's ready. Are you ready? Are you ready? Say ready.
Ready.
There you go. Say okay.
Okay. Okay.
There you go. 4 rounds. Headshots this time, Corey, if you can. Bust them.
Okay.
Fix it, fix it. Secondary, secondary, secondary. That's how we fix that problem. Great job.
Okay.
What would have happened if you went into fixing your primary right then? He was fixed. Exactly. 2 guns would have been down. That's why we never assume. Great job, Carl. Took you a minute, a little bit of hesitation, but you fixed it.
Check.
Outstanding job, Corey. Good job actually topping that gun off, Corey. Outstanding. That's the way to think. Now, you already called check. So you already called check. He gave you permission. Okay. Good job topping off your secondary, but now he's covering you the whole time, so get your primary up and running. Try to get that muzzle up. I know it's heavy, but that way when we start movement drills and we're running, we're not muzzle sweeping anybody. Now, there you go. Good job.
So when he says check, that's the order for the other person to do a check, and you give a ready.
No, what's going to happen here, basically what you're looking at is your primary weapon systems, worst case scenario, went down at the same time. So what ends up happening is you got to deconflict somewhere. So one of you got to figure out who's going to fix your problem first. And that's where the check drill comes into. So what you'll say is, you're there first, you're just going to say check. At that point, you're asking his permission, saying, listen, with all the other stuff going on right now, are we good? Are you good to actually cover me because I have to get my primary up and running? That's when he says, okay. As soon as he gets the okay, or you get the okay, as soon as you get that, that lets you know, hey, if you need to top off your secondary like you did, which is good, it saved my butt once, let's load it up so it can save my butt again, right? And then, of course, you get your primary up as well. When you do that, you just say ready. And then he knows that if he has any problems, he'll call what?
Check.
And that's it. All right, keep loading up. Don't put that thing away until he gives you permission, Hot Rod. Pistol, 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 pistol! You're screwing with your primary, Alan! Look how long that took! You're killing me! You're killing the team, Alan. You know that? Did you see him over here, Mark? He's letting you down, my friend. All right, fix it. He's over there fingering his stuff, taking his gun apart, oiling her. Normally Alan's Top Gun. Really good job. I saw guys actually doing tack reloads on your secondary. Why is that important?
Top it off.
Top it off.
Keep it running.
Keep it running. Because of what? What
Next time you
specific?
pull it out, it needs to be loaded. Yeah.
It does. Just like Mark said, and just like Corey was talking about, we always want that thing topped off in our holster, ready to go, because it saved our life once, but we need it to be there again, and one round in that gun, and then it goes to slide lock, is not saving our ass. We actually need more bullets in case there's more bad guys at that event. Remember, we're not just encountering this situation, there can be more situations that we're actually getting involved in. The next thing that we're going to talk about, basically I call it shooting at a tube. That's if you have any type of red dot system. If you're running like an ACOG or something like that, this probably isn't really applying to you, because what we're looking at is that for some reason the dot has failed us. So we're looking at optics specifically that have a red dot inside them, that while we were engaging and while we were shooting, the dot goes off. And there's some things that you really kind of need to think about, and that is, can I continue to engage with my optic off? How far can I engage with my optic off? And what is basically the size of my target that I'm engaging? If we're talking about center mass at 15 yards, pretty much once I put that human figure in my tube, I'm probably gonna be okay with a good center mass shot. But if you tell me I need to do a headshot at 15 with the optic off, I need to rethink my priority, and unfortunately, you're not gonna have a lot of time to do that, because it goes off during the engagement, and you have to figure, do I transition to my what? What weapon system? Secondary. And utilize that, because that weapon system has iron sights, so you don't have to turn them on, you don't have to turn them off, they don't fog up generally, and they generally don't get knocked off the gun, so they're always there. However, the optic's a little bit different. Things can frag it, things can get knocked off of it, you can jump over a wall and it hits the concrete and it's destroyed. If you have time to use backups, should you do that? I mean, what's generally more lethal? 5.56 or 9 mil? And I'm not talking, you know, I don't want to go into big ballistics here, but generally your most violent weapon system that you guys are training with today is your primary, thus the word of primary. So if you have time, what should you do? Get your primary up, which means that if you're running folding sights, you flip them up and get them back into the fight, and then you utilize it. If your optic's completely smashed, you may need to figure out a way to get that optic off. If you're using quick release, that's great. If you're using hexy nuts, that could be a problem. So we do with what we can. At that point, I could shoot possibly over my optic. So the next drill that we're gonna do, and I'm gonna have somebody come up here and verify, is basically a drill with the optic off. So Carl, can you come on up, look through my optic to make sure I'm not cheating, telling you that I'm gonna do it, and I really don't. Are you sure? Yeah. Were your eyes open? I'm sure. I hope so. All right, going hot. All I want you to do is find out where your spot is. Take your time, bring the gun up. And do whatever you need to do. And as you can see, I mean, you're able to get headshots. So at this distance, you can successfully get headshots. Now, as you get back further and further, if you had a spot of the body that you could pick, what would it be? Center of mass, center of whatever that mass is that presents itself. So the bigger, the better. If it gets more refined, we'll have to flip up our irons at that point. So that's the way generally the drill's gonna work. Any questions? And from here on out, since you guys are partnered up, what I would want you to do is transition all the time to your secondary weapon system, because we're at a good engagement range from here. Any questions with that? All right, your secondary good, Carl? Life on it?
What?
Bet your life on it?
Yeah, I checked it when I was walking around.
Good to go then. Lesson learned right there was what? That's why we do a press check, huh?
The mag wasn't all the way in.
That's why we do a press check. All right, let's go. Good shoot. You're all over that head. Nice. Give me a cadence of 4 rounds. Stand by. Bust them. Good job.
like Wilson from Castaway.
It's gonna look, yeah, it's gonna look a little crazy. Come on up here for a second, guys. I want to talk about this one. So what we're gonna do on this one is we are gonna use our flip ups. I think everybody here, yours is a little bit indented, Connor. Everybody else is up top. Yours is spring loaded. So there are a couple different manufacturers here. Now remember that you gotta be very, very careful. And when you practice these techniques, remember that every bullet that gets launched out of a gun is a liability if it does not hit the bad guy. So we gotta, if you're gonna practice and do those techniques, make sure you know where your rounds are impacting. For those that do have flip ups, this is one of the things that I want you to consider. You can do the traditional front sight, right? And ghost ring in your dead center and line them up. Or what you can do is what I call shooting out of the notch. It's not, when I say I call it, I didn't invent it. I just learned it like everybody else. And what we're gonna do is basically our front sight and the bottom of the front sight right here, this portion is what I'm talking about in this simulation. And what I'm doing is I'm taking my rear sight and I'm holding it underneath. Now, traditionally, what I would normally do is I would line it up. And if I line it up, I now have a bullet drop from muzzle to sight relationship here, where my bore is. So technically, if this was where I was hoping to get rounds on right here, in reality, because I'm close, they would be right in here. That also takes time. Time for me in a heated battle to get the gun up, drop my front sight into the back ghost ring, get it lined up perfectly, squeeze the shot off, and not only that, but keep in mind that I now need to hold high. By doing this particular technique, you're basically putting this portion right here above the rear, and what it does is it takes the gun from this position and moves it slightly, which actually means that this will be point of aim, point of impact. This technique that I'm going to show you that I learned many years ago in the military is a good technique for coming in, engaging targets, probably within 10 yards or less. 10 yards or less, you're going to be okay. And anything beyond 10 yards, it's not probably going to work for you in the amount of time it's going to take for you to try to get things lined up. You'd be best off getting it into the ghost ring and just engaging. So as soon as I come up, I put that shooting out of the notch, front sight above the ghost ring, and pull the trigger. And when I do, I'm shooting point of aim, point of impact. You'll get used to it. It's going to take you a few rounds to get used to it. But once you do, you're going to see how fast you can actually start tracking your front sight. One more recommendation that I would recommend for you guys is, and I'm going to use Neil as an example because our setups are very, very close. You see Neil? It's blacked out right here. And this is really kind of important. It's almost like the old handgun days when we didn't have night sights and you actually had to take a marker and kind of paint your front sight on your 1911, old school style, right? So now the difference is that's Neil's front sight. For him to try to just shoot out of the notch with it, it might be a little slow. So all that I did was put some green or orange paint. Now I didn't go orange because of why? Generally, I don't want my dot and the sight to look the same, especially if for some reason it pops up during an engagement for whatever reason and the spring system breaks. So all you have to do here now is I put the green above the rear, which makes it simple for me and for my eyes to see it since you shoot both eyes open. We're just going to try it, run through some drills, and then if you need to, we'll go back to the truck and we'll paint front sights if you think it's something that you desire. So I'll give a demonstration real quick and then we'll turn loose. Check.
Okay.
Ready. Let's go to work. Good job, Carl. Headshot. Great transition, Derek. Good job. Reload, reload, mag out, mag in. Nice job. Nice reload, Neil. Tell him hold. Good reload, Derek. He said ready. Before you put it away, what do you do though? Just in case he has another malfunction. So before you put it away, make sure he gives you permission.
He did. He said okay, right?
No, he didn't.
Oh, he didn't? Okay.
Yep. Say it. Say it again. Check. Check! There you go.
Ready.
There you go. All right, guys. Everybody have enough mags? Cease fire. Range is cold. Let's gather around real quick. All right, on this particular drill, this is what we call a moving move drill.
Low ready, should be in your pocket. Bust them.
With these weapon systems, the way you can work this thing now, it's easy to work the gun on safe. You're on safe, you flip on fire. You're on fire, once the gun shoots over, you put it back on safe at that point. So it allows you the ability to quickly manipulate your weapon system. This drill also helps us if we have problems working our safety. You generally won't by the time this drill is over. You'll be okay working your safety. What I need you guys to think about is if I'm making movement and I'm not engaging, so I'm moving with my primary, but I'm not engaging, then I need to be on safe. If I have to engage, I'll disengage my safety, I'll neutralize the threat. If that is the only threat, and once I've scanned the area and there are no more threats, I will then put the gun back on safe. Other than that, if there are more people that I need to engage and take out, then what condition is the weapon going to be in? It's going to be on what? Fire. Okay, because that makes tactical sense at that point. The way this particular drill is going to work is I will start you from the fire position. You'll all be on fire. You will all call the moving command. Everybody online will say moving. You will then be waiting for me to give you permission to make movement, and that will be called move. Moving, move. Once you get the move command, you'll put your weapon on safe. You'll move, in this case, in a low ready, walking down, looking at your targets down range. When I say bust them or threat, at that point, we're also simulating that you are too far away to actually shoot on the move successfully. So we're going to simulate that you need to, and when I say simulate, we're simulating that the targets are extremely far. So what I want you to do is stop, post up, and engage and neutralize that threat. You're on fire. You're going to call moving. I'll say move, weapon back on safe. You'll continue on, and you'll see it with this drill.
Weapon is on fire.
You're bringing the gun straight back. So in a sense, your reaction hand is just supporting the gun. Your weapon hand is pulling it right into the pocket.
Moving. Move.
So from this position, I'm still looking over my optic. I can see the target. All that I'm doing from here is cheeking and bringing the gun in.
Bust up.
It's just a different style technique. You never know where you're going to find yourself in. You have to go shoot over the top of something. You start to bring the gun up, collapse it, and then snap it right back. So it's just a different technique that I need you guys to try. Then we'll do it from a low ready. If there are no questions, let's get online. Weapon is on fire. You're at a high ready. It shouldn't be shouldered. All right, call it.
Moving.
Move. Bust up. Great job. Mag out, mag in. Get in the front. Hustle, hustle. He's getting back up. Fix it, fix it. There you go. Great job, Corey. Great job. Outstanding. Hustle up, hustle up, hustle up. He's moving. There you go. Good job. Headshots this time. Headshots only. 4 rounds on each on the head. If you're back at distance and you have to transition immediately to your secondary, body shots are fine. Okay, let's keep it real. I'm not going to aim at some dude's head when I can shoot him in the chest with my secondary weapon system much faster. Remember, I don't want guys getting in the habit. You think that it's quicker by looking through your tube. Don't look through your optic. You're looking over your optic, and then when I call it out, you bring your optic up, cheek the gun, finish cheeking the weapon system, and then engage. Does that make sense? Don't walk and look through your optic because you're going to lose a lot more of what's happening in the environment as it's being presented to you. So we're going to run this hard again. Same thing, post up, keeping the peripheral vision, what other shooters are doing, so don't go forward. You know, try to stay dressed up online with one another. Outstanding effort today. You guys ready? Let's do it again. Once you fire your 4 rounds, call it again. When you call it, you put your weapon on what? Good to go. Call it. Move. Bust up. job, Alan.
Okay.
Hold fire. You don't need to keep engaging. Hold fire. Bust them! Some of you guys did a real good job transitioning into your secondary weapon systems. Outstanding. I saw you guys over here. You guys punched out with your pistols, worked your check drills out. I thought it looked really clean. Some people were screwing with their primaries. Okay? Remember that it'll get you by out here. I mean, you know what I mean? We all make mistakes, and that's good, and that's what I'm talking about expanding our box. But our goal is to train for that worst case scenario, which means I'm receiving fire as my primary weapon system clicks. I don't care about it. I have lost faith in it because it does not work anymore. At that point, I dump it and go to my secondary weapon system. At least it's a weapon system that I know is functioning at that moment in time. It may stop functioning here really soon, and at that point, I'll make a different thought process. One of the things that we will do as we are progressing is we will start topping off our primary mag. I'm not having you guys do it because I'm wanting a reaction from you. But as we continue with our primary in a gunfight, what should we probably be doing?
Make sure your primary's good to go all the way.
That way I don't have to pull out my secondary weapon system unless it's a hard malfunction. Because if we have time in the gunfight, if we're allotted that time, and I can top off my primary in a lull by simply telling Alan, check, and he says, okay, that's it. I'm gonna do my normal tack reload, top off my primary, and then one of the things that you need to think about in this case is whichever one is your first magazine that you normally speed reload from, you start bumping and consolidating your magazines forward. That way you don't have to actually start drawing from the rear. So a lot of forward thinking needs to go into this and problem solving so that you, the operator, when you're under stress and under fire, things are working a little bit easier for you. Your mags are back up front, right where they need to be, right where they're easier for you to get. Some of those extra mags that you carry aren't in spots where you can access them very, very quickly. So all that we do is we start bumping them forward and consolidating. If you're like Derek here and you're running a ready mag, then what Derek's constantly doing is feeding his ready mag. Because in this particular setup, what he's doing is his speed reload comes from his gun. It comes from that ready mag hanging off of his gun. So what he's consciously doing the whole time in an effort to make his weapon system work faster is he's feeding the ready mag. If he uses this one ready mag and puts in just a primary, okay, just loads this one up over here, and he doesn't put this one in, well, I guess it was great for the first shootout portion, but what's happening for the rest of the shootout portion? So in a sense, he's kind of doing two things. He's loading his primary on his check drill, and he is also loading his ready mag again. And then if there is a good enough lull, he's bumping everything forward, so life gets easier for him. And those are the things that we need to think about. This game is about problem solving. Staying alive is about solving problems and those problems that occur with your particular weapon system. At this point, you're being presented with a lot of targets. Hopefully in real life, you don't have this many guys standing there, and then generally they don't line up like that, unfortunately, and they usually don't stand there letting you fire at them. The goal here is, as we make our lateral movement, I want you to think about your foot movement, staying on the balls of your feet, and when you're breaking that shot off. So of course there's trigger control, there's follow through, there's where is my dot when I do that at that point, so sight picture of course. And if I'm making movement in this direction here, so I'm moving laterally here, what happens if I hold my dot dead center? Where when I pull that trigger are the rounds probably going to go?
Neck or head. Past it to the right.
Okay, a little bit over in here because I'm moving in this direction, which means I need to lead it just slightly. Now, therein lies a little bit more. How much do I lead it? Well, how fast are you moving? Are you moving like this? I probably don't need to lead it at this distance. If I'm actually moving like this, I may need to lead it a little bit depending upon when I break my shot off. So your rhythm of movement's important, your cadence of fire is important, and what we're looking at is 4 rounds on each target. Once I'm done engaging this target, what should I then be doing? Advancing my muzzle towards the next target, exactly right. So trying to get my dot stabilized as fast as possible. So I'm going to do a demo for you guys. All right, all that you're going to do, balls of your feet, we do not crisscross or you're going to end up falling. It's very dangerous, so we do not want that to happen. So I bring the gun up, I start to track the target. Remember, advance your muzzle when you can. Check! Ready! Line it up on Mark. Mark's first shooter. Take it. Good job, Carl. Nice. Take your time. Good job. You're on your secondary weapon system, making movement, engaging and neutralizing when you can. Later on, I'll try to start throwing in where I will give you time to actually get your primary up and running. Okay, so we'll start incorporating it while it's moving. That's why everything that we do, we're trying to get our weapon systems, both primary and secondary, somewhere up into our workspace so that if we start doing moving drills down the range, you guys can actually see where it is you're going while reloading and topping off or tack reloading your weapon system in your workspace and not losing sight of what's going on downrange. In reality, what we're looking at is you just watch the bad guy shift positions on you from the corner of a building to he's behind a car now. Had you been doing it down here, you're going to lose sight of that and not know that that's happening. Out on the flat range, it's important just mainly for safety. But we got to look at what is the big picture. The big picture is I do it in my workspace so I can see what's going on downrange in front of me, so I can see my operators because they will make mistakes under fire. Some guys will start getting into an area where it could be a line of fire issue, okay, if there's not enough dead space. So these are all things that you guys need to think about. All right, we're going to run it back. There you go, Neil. Side step, Neil. You're doing all sorts of weird shit. Side step, side step. Keep moving. Good job. Keep moving. Okay. Decock, decock, decock. Nope, face target. You got the right, nope, I just said decock. I didn't want you putting it in there with the hammer now. Do your reload, you're under check. Good to go. Good job, good job. Derek actually brought up a really good question. That question is, why are we choosing different styles of movement? I'm teaching you a variety of ways to move, both indoors and outdoors. If it's an extended period of time, you're probably just going to utilize another technique that I'm going to show you later that's been taught many times over. One of the good things is about this technique is, should you have to actually make movement for some odd reason, for instance, cabinet, couch, someplace to actually get behind and utilize as some type of cover or concealment, then you will actually be able to get there safely by sidestepping. Couple of the advantages. If you sidestep and you hit something, right, because it's a little bit low light, then you're only impacting it with the side of your leg. So at that point, once you hit it, you can make movement, bump around it, and then continue on to wherever it was that you decided to make movement to. Secondly, if you're wearing tactical gear and you're running plates, and the threats are down there, most importantly at that point is you are facing forward so that if you do get impacted by engaging 5 guys by yourself or with only 2 guys in that room, when the rounds are firing back on you, at that point you are squared up as best to the threat. There are going to be choices later where you as the individual are going to have to decide, and I'll run you through those drills. Do I square up and take the target or risk the heart shot? And we're going to go through all of those drills. So at the end, I won't be telling you what exactly to do specifically. You, because I can't be there with you when you have these encounters, you will make that decision on your own, as long as you understand why you need to possibly square up to certain targets or not. Next drill, you guys ready? Okay. For whatever reason, I'm making movement in this direction right here. I have to make movement in this direction right here, so I'm holding on it. However, as I'm making movement, and I'm squared up to where I perceive that the threat may be, whether it's a long hallway, whatever, from this position, what's going to happen is, just like Derek said, I'm either in a high ready position or I'm in a low ready position. I'm moving while I'm making movement, and you may choose to do the old classic Groucho duck walk, right? Heel toe, heel toe. You'll have to figure out what works best for you and your body mechanics. As I'm moving from this position, all that's going to happen is a threat has presented itself. I'm going to make movement, find my dot,
engage, and then I'm gonna go right back to holding on what it was that I was pointing my gun at in the first place. If another target presents itself, then you will engage that. These are extremely close, so you're gonna find yourself walking all the way down, engaging targets on your left. For you, Alan, since you're a lefty, going in this direction is gonna have its limitations, which means you have to get your shots off a little bit earlier. So all that's basically gonna happen is remember where you put your dot, depending upon how fast you're moving, is gonna be extremely important. You may need to lead the target. All right, first shooter. Shoot. Bust.